Late one summer night the younger children of the tribe begged old grandfather to tell them a story of the before times when he had been a young brave under the guidance of the great chief of the humans. They had all heard the story many times, and enjoyed the way grandfather told it a little differently each time. Besides, it meant that they could stay up a little later before going to bed. Old grandfather started to tell the story. It went like this. Once many seasons ago, there was a great tribe of humans living in the land far to the east. They built their houses out of wood cut from the deep dark forests, they grew their corn, and on the lands that they cleared themselves, they hunted and fished. The good things were in abundance everywhere, and they were at peace with their neighbors. All in all, they were quite content with their lives. The humans were led by a great chief who stood 7 feet tall, had huge shoulders, big arms, and a certain sparkle in his gaze. He was very wise in the ways of his people. He knew that though they had all that nature could provide, they were lacking in rich experiences with the ways of spirit. So he decided one early spring to gather up all of the children and younger people of the tribe and lead them on a long journey to the west. Saying farewell to parents and friends, they eagerly set out upon this new adventure with light hearts. The chief of the humans led them across new and different lands, camping each night around the fire. He would ask the children what they had seen that day and what they might have thought about it. In the mornings, he would ask each of them if they remembered their dreams and explain, if they could, what the symbols meant. Things went well until they reached the dry lands. Strange plants and animals were there. They had to watch out for snakes and insects. They had to learn to conserve food and most of all water. As the tribe went further into the desert, the nature of their dreams changed. An ominous tone began to underlie the dream symbols of some of the children. One evening before the sun went down behind the horizon, they made camp in a grove of red-barked trees that were huge in girth as well as in height. The needles from these strange trees made very soft beds, and the children were soon fast asleep. The great chief went off by himself to sit alone and contemplate on the day and make contact with the inner spirit. But now he felt restless and troubled. He could not find his center. So he returned to the grove of trees. He found to his surprise and dismay that the children were gone, not one could he find. At first, he thought they were playing a trick on him, maybe hiding behind the huge trees as children might do. But he heard not a sound, or scuffle, nor giggle. He searched all that night, and at dawn, he picked up an unusual trail leading away from the grove. He followed the trail, with much worry in his heart, until he arrived at the mouth of a large, dark cave, leading almost straight down into the depths of the earth. The chief listened carefully. He thought he could hear the distant cries of children in the darkness. The chief knew what he had to do now. He raced back to the grove of trees and cut down 2 of them. One he sharpened into a giant spear, the other he made into a torch. He carried them back to the cave and began his descent into the large, black hole in the earth. The old grandfather stopped in his story, noticed the late hour, and was about to get up to go to bed, but was unable to rise from the ground, from the weight of children clinging to his arms and legs, begging him to continue with his tale. So he did. The chief of the humans went as swiftly as he dared down, down, into the bowels of the earth. Step by step, he made his way along the steep trail, until he came to a huge cavern, the floor of which stretched out beyond the light of his torch. He stopped and listened. He could hear sobbing and crying in the darkness. He continued on. What appeared to be statues of stone, anchored to the floor of the cave. Upon closer look, he recognized the forms of the children of the tribe. Tears were flowing from their eye sockets of stone onto the rock floor, forming a great stream. He could hear moans of anguish and despair from each human child made of rock, and his rage grew inside of him. He roared out a challenge that shook the cave. Almost instantly, there came a roar and reply from the darkness of the cavern. Into the light of the torch, there lumbered a tremendous shape. It had blazing red eyes, and large green scales hanging from its legs and tail. It had a shell 20 feet in diameter, which was jet black in color, with lights glowing from it. It looked like a giant half-cat, half-turtle. It spoke, "What are you doing trespassing here in the Cave of Tears? Prepare to be defeated in your quest, human." The chief replied, "I am here to take the children back to the light. Prepare to do battle, ugly one." And then they began to fight. The fight went on for a long while. The cave shook, and there appeared cracks in the statues of the children. Shards and pieces of stone fell away from them, and soon they were free again. The chief of the humans fought on with the red-eyed monster, and the cave itself started to fall in large chunks to the floor. Sensing the danger, the chief shouted to the children to run quickly to the entrance of the now crumbling cave. The chief of the humans took his pointed spear and stabbed the foot of the red-eyed monster, who yelled out a roar as it hopped around in pain and agony. The chief, seeing his chance, ran between the monster and the wall and guided the children up the steep trail toward the surface. Meanwhile, rocks tumbled down around them. They crossed the cavern floor. Faster and faster they ran toward the tiny oval of sunlight at the top of the cave, until they lay panting on the ground, in the full light of day once more. The ground shook many times before quiet came to the world. The chief and his young tribe rose to their feet, and to their surprise the land before them had changed. Now where the cavern had been, there was a vast canyon, several miles deep, and at the bottom ran a river of tears. The youth of the tribe pondered these remarkable events and decided they would stay and settle there, learn the ways of nature, in this strange land, and get rich through diversity rather than stagnate in complacency. The chief of the humans saw this, and was very pleased. Old grandfather stopped talking and sat quietly, listening to the sounds of the sleeping children, and to the murmur of the nearby Colorado River echoing from the Grand Canyon, before he too slipped off to sleep, perhaps to dream.